Hi, this is Deboki, and today for Not My Thesis, I am going to be talking about job searching while you're in grad school. When I first started grad school, I sort of had it in the back of my mind that I would want to pursue some career in research, most likely in academia, but over the past 2 years, I've basically increasingly come to the conclusion that that is not for me. I've been working on moving into science writing and science communication, specifically something that will allow me to work like in some kind of media or PR position. I didn't really become fully confident in my decision to pursue a career in science writing and communication until pretty late in my grad school career. And while there are a lot of PhD students who do end up going down that path, it's not nearly as prevalent as, all these other careers in research and consulting and academia that you're surrounded with in grad school. So I've had a lot of moments where I've been really nervous that I wouldn't be able to make the jump that I've been wanting to make or in the way that I've been kind of hoping to make it. But I am really excited because starting in June, I am going to be working as a multimedia intern at Scientific American. I'm super excited for this position because it's really in line with the kinds of things that I've been doing and things that I'm really excited in moving towards, and it's at Scientific American, which is really exciting. So I am by no means a job application expert, but I wanted to talk a little bit in this video about what it was like to come at the job application process with my experience, and also what it was like kind of doing that as a grad student. But of course I have a major caveat for this discussion with regards to both kind of support that I've had emotionally and financially. A lot of PhD students end up having advisors who really want to push them into one specific track. Usually it's research oriented. Sometimes the advisors are even more specific and want their students to follow the exact same path as them and go into academia. I've been really lucky to have an advisor who is well aware that maybe not everyone, even if they're doing research in grad school, will want to pursue that as a career. So I had a lot of support from my advisor that sometimes people don't get. I'm also lucky to have a lot of support from my family, of course, first and foremost emotionally, but also financially. I don't want to get too into like the nitty-gritty details of finances, but I'm lucky to not really have to worry too much about health insurance or student loans, which can be huge factors in the choices that people have to make when they're deciding what career they want to pursue. I'm also married, and my husband is wonderful and has a wonderfully stable job for the moment. And that's obviously not a guarantee of anything at all, but it does put me in a slightly more comfortable position when I'm deciding what kind of career choices I want to take on and kind of what payoffs I need to have immediately and what I'm able to wait for. I just want to make it clear so that I'm not pretending that there isn't some kind of privilege that comes into the decisions that I'm able to make. So let's just get right into it. The job search is hard no matter what position you're coming from. I think when you're coming at it as someone who's very new to the job application process though, it's especially overwhelming because you're really just trying to get your foot in the door. And even though I'm like almost 29, I'm kind of a grown up, this is the first time I've really had to apply for a job. I did work in a daycare when I was in high school, but that wasn't like a big drawn out application process. All of the applications that I have filled out till now have been for schools and like fellowships. Those are on a really set cycle, and you know when the application is due, you know when you're gonna hear back. So adjusting over to applying for jobs where you don't know when anything's gonna get posted, there's not necessarily a clear due date for everything. You don't know if you're gonna actually hear back from all of the things you applied to. That was a huge adjustment for me. Applying for internships was a little bit less intimidating in that regard because they are sort of matching up with the academic cycle and they think they do have clear due dates and everything, so that was a little bit more comfortable, but it's still a looser timeline compared to what I'm used to. Another weird thing to adjust to when you're applying for jobs outside of like the academic fellowship world is the resume and the cover letter. A lot of academic applications revolve around the CV or the curriculum vitae, and they might also involve a cover letter or some kind of personal statement, but they operate, I think, a little bit differently than, real world job resume cover letters do. A lot of things in academia, when you're trying to stand out, you're really just trying to show people that you have a lot of accomplishments. And because the world of academia is so rigid, how people assess those accomplishments is pretty consistent. Usually questions like what's your publication situation, what's your grant, fellowship, award situation. It's a lot more regimented in a way that, means that your CV is really just going to be a long list of accomplishments. It's not limited to a page, it's just you're trying to show off. For those of you who are familiar with a resume, you know that it's really not like that. It's not meant to be a super long list of all of your accomplishments. It's supposed to basically be a bullet point story, I guess, of what you can do for a certain employer. And the cover letter is the same way. The cover letter is you basically trying to issue a not completely desperate plea for why you are appropriate for a certain position and what you can really bring to it. And so the purposes of like the resume versus the CV are just slightly different enough that the way you go about them is completely different. If I'm applying for things that are in academia world, they're like asking for my CV. I only need one CV. It needs to be up to date, but I can send everyone that CV. When I'm applying for jobs, my resume has to be tailored for each job I'm applying for, and because I was initially applying for things that were kind of on a wider range of positions, there was a lot of tailoring going on. And that's even more true for the cover letter, where you really want to like have your voice and your personality and whatever it is that you think you bring to this position shine through. I do also want to link to one resource that was really helpful to me, which was Ask a Manager. There's a lot of like job related kind of questions and advice on that site. I don't know if I necessarily find like the whole site useful, but I think the cover letter guidance that is on that site is really beneficial if you, like me, have never written one before, or if you're even just trying to figure out how to make yours stronger. She goes through examples of strong letters and kind of goes over how a hiring manager might read them, which I think can help a lot in figuring out how to structure yours. The thing that I'm really glad that I did was follow through on some advice that my advisor gave me, which was to start applying for jobs before I was actually ready to take one. So I started applying for jobs last August, and I'm only now ready to actually move on from grad school. But I'm really glad that I took his advice, because what it really let me do is figure out this whole weird adjustment and iterate on what I was doing, so that by the time I was applying for things that I really wanted and that I felt a lot more urgency towards, I had sort of worked out some of the mistakes that I needed to get through. I'm pretty sure my first resume and cover letter was terrible because I didn't know what I was doing. I was really just trying to figure out what a cover letter even is supposed to look like. But with that said, I'm glad I got that out of the way so that I could figure out how to make the next ones better. And the same goes for interviewing. My first phone interview, I was super nervous. I could feel my voice kind of shaking. As I got more used to interviewing over several iterations of it, I felt a lot more confident. Applying before I was ready to actually take on a job also helped me kind of further narrow down what it was I was actually looking for. When I started out, I was applying for a much wider range of things, and over like each course of applications, I started figuring out more and more what positions I wasn't actually as invested in, which helped me sort of filter them out kind of downstream. Transitioning from that into some more advice, I don't think I'm necessarily going to be saying anything particularly revolutionary, but I want to put it out there because it's stuff that really helped me, and if these are cliches, there's a good reason for them. So the first advice is just to talk to people about what you're interested in. It can be friends, it can be like classmates, it can be alumni, professors, your advisor, family. You never know who knows something or someone that can help you out. For me, I've been really lucky to have a lot of friends in grad school who were like super excited to forward along any job posting that they thought would be remotely interesting to me. And I know it can be sometimes a little bit hard to put yourself out there, especially when talking to people starts to move into talking to strangers. And I totally get that because it feels very like, I don't know, hustly in a way that I think is contrary to what academia teaches you to do. We're taught that like, you know, our work is supposed to be good enough to speak for itself. That means that like we should be able to be good enough that our work can speak on our behalf. But that's not actually how things work. It doesn't actually even work that way in academia. So I think if you're kind of trying to get over that initial barrier, don't even think about it as like talking to someone to try to get something out of them. Think about it as just talking to someone just to share a piece of yourself. I think when you consider what your next step professionally is going to be, that's on par with like, what do you do for fun? What do you do as a hobby? What do you do in the lab? Like, what's your background? Where are you from? Like, it's just as much a part of you as anything else. And so I found it helpful just to think of it as just something to like kind of bond over. Another really good way to kind of get over that initial barrier is to go to conferences. And conferences can be overwhelming, but the really good thing about them is that basically everyone is there to network, everyone is there to talk to each other about what they're doing and what they want to be doing next. And again, that might be uncomfortable, but I think when you're in a situation where everyone is there for the same purpose, it makes it a little bit less scary that you also might want that out of your interaction with someone. And I've I've made some really great connections out of conferences, both like from people who are working jobs that I'm interested in and also with other students who are interested in similar career paths. And connecting with people at conferences and also on social media has been really, really helpful. In addition, I think job fairs and internship fairs are really good opportunities for you to network. I went to a science writing internship fair at AAAS this past year, and it helped me so much with both networking, but also for helping me learn how to talk about myself. Some people at that internship fair were excited to talk to me, some people weren't, and it was really helpful to just get that experience face to face to see what aspects of my background people were picking up on as things that they were either excited about or just kind of like meh on. I think doing that face to face made the whole process also a lot less intimidating, made it that whole like kind of impersonal aspect of the whole job application thing that is so terrifying a little bit less kind of, I don't know, overwhelming. And I'm glad I did that internship fair because it really helped me to sort of refine my pitch going forward in cover letters. The last kind of big piece of advice that I want to give is don't talk yourself out of any opportunity you're excited for. Some of the things that have paid off for me the most in the past year are the things that I almost didn't apply for because I was so intimidated, and I was just like, there's no way that this is going to get past like some first round stage. So for example, I was just talking about this internship fair I went to that really, really helped me out with finding people to talk to and also learning a little bit more about how to talk about myself with them. I almost didn't go to that internship fair. I knew that a lot of the people going to this internship fair were going to be science writing students who probably had a lot more experience with writing for actual media outlets. A lot of them might have had published clips. They might have just a lot of things on paper that I was just like, there's no way that I'm going to measure up to this. And I just was like, I'm going to walk up to these people who come from these really amazing places and just be like, so I have a YouTube channel. And I just had a lot of like anxiety about that. I felt very like unqualified against this image of what I thought they were all looking for. And I remember having to kind of force myself to go to this. I had to talk to my husband and be like, make me go, basically. And I also talked to some people who I also knew were going to go to the internship fair, and that helped sort of alleviate the initial anxiety. But what really got me to go was that the conference was taking place during the Winter Olympics. And I remember the night before this internship fair, Nathan Chen did this program where he landed a record number of quads after bombing basically all of his skates beforehand. And I was like, you know what? If Nathan Chen can get into a headspace where he can like blow everyone out of the water after having basically, you know, bombed on such a huge prominent stage, if he can like get into that headspace, I think I can get into a headspace where I can talk to some strangers about how I want to work for them. And sure, there were some people there who, you know, they weren't super crazy about my background. They knew what they were looking for, and I just wasn't it. And experiencing that kind of immediate sense of rejection face to face would made it so much easier going forward to just be like, yeah, it's not personal. I'm just not what they're looking for. And then, you know, on the other hand, there were also people who were really interested in this strange background I have of being a PhD student who also does YouTube. It really helped me develop some confidence in what I'm doing and find ways to talk about it without feeling so self-conscious. I think YouTube in particular has a tendency to feel very self-indulgent. I just put up a camera and talk into it, and so it feels weird to talk about it in any kind of professional application context. But getting that experience of talking about it with people kind of face to face really, really helped me going forward with how I talked about it in my cover letters and my resumes, and it's just been a huge help for me. A lot of my focus in the past few months has been applying for internships because I knew that an internship would help me sort of transition more into the kind of careers I've been wanting to pursue. And I've been applying for internships at places that basically sound like dream places for me to work. And when you apply for things at places that, you know, seem like dream places, it's very easy to be like, there's no way they're gonna want me. Like, it's just not gonna happen. And I almost talked myself out of applying for so many of these things that I ended up, you know, getting much further along than I thought I would. So if there's anything I'm proud of myself for doing, it's basically putting the ball in all of these other places' court. Just saying like, look, I want this position. I would love to work at this place. It's up to you to reject me. You have to put the work into it because I'm gonna apply for it. And I think it's especially easy for a lot of us as women to talk ourselves out of jobs that we might really want, that we feel that we're qualified for, but that we're convinced someone else is not going to recognize our qualifications for. You know, there is this tendency that's been reported for women to apply for jobs that they're overqualified for. And I think it's because, you know, it's so easy to convince yourself that you're inconveniencing someone else. I think it can help to try to develop at least some sense of entitlement to at least apply for the things you're qualified for, which is a weird way of putting that. It's probably a sad indictment of, you know, jobs and how society treats women and all of that good stuff. Don't talk yourself out of things that you really want, basically. That's all I want to say with that. The last piece of very, very pragmatic advice. One of the hard things about applying for jobs is just figuring out what jobs are out there. Luckily, the internet makes this a little bit easier, but Google has made this even more easy. Sometime in the past year, Google started doing job alerts. So you can basically Google, like, I don't know, science writing internship, and it will automatically, kind of on the top of the search page, compile a list of science writing internships that have been posted pretty much on like LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, a number of different sites. And you can actually subscribe to these alerts and get them in your email. So yeah, with all of that said, I am really excited to be moving on to working as an intern at Scientific American for, I think it'll be about like 6 months, starting in June. And I'm gonna be moving to New York for that. So I'm really excited, a little bit overwhelmed. It's kind of crazy because I have been in grad school for so long. I've been doing my PhD for like 7 years, and everything's, you know, officially submitted to the library. I'm a doctor now. My graduation's in 2 weeks. It all happens very, very quickly, apparently. I'm sure I'm gonna do some more like processing about all of my feelings with the end of grad school and some of these videos coming up because I have a lot of feelings. It's very emotional, it's very overwhelming, it's very exciting. So thank you guys for watching these Not My Thesis videos and letting me sort of process my feelings about grad school out loud with you all and kind of talk through the feelings, the thought processes, the excitement, the stressful moments with you guys. I feel like this channel, and particularly this series, has been a really great way for me to get kind of some of my voice back because grad school is so good at forcing you into kind of a very specific way of speaking, and having this channel as a way to talk to people outside of that, you know, that specific mode has been kind of a savior. Has been really, really good for me. It's been really healthy. It's given me a much better outlet for me to figure out kind of what I'm doing next. So thank you guys for that, and thank you for watching. Bye.